It is actually sad for me to say this, but a case of magic or sorcery have been found. Yes, you heard me correctly. A case of magic or sorcery have been found, and of course this is primarily directed to all of my students. Hopefully you still remember the video where I make a notice to the students, and in that video I touch upon several items, several topics, one of which is the use of magic in answering question in the exam or quiz, right? I have made it clear that that is the final warning, and if anyone is found to be using those kind of things, magic, sorcery, your marks, not only for that question but for all other questions as well, will magically becomes 0, right? So that was the final warning, and unfortunately it is sad for me to say, I was marking the quizzes just now, and there are several cases that appear to be basically the use of magic, right? You will know when you receive the quiz paper returned to you if your quiz paper have been found to be using such a thing. And I clearly state there in the quiz paper, all your quiz marks will be turned to 0. It will not magically become 0 because I will actually manually make everything become 0. That's to keep true to the promise that was made in that final warning. Of course, if you want some redemption, perhaps you can come clean before you get those quiz paper. If you do that, then we can discuss some things, how to resolve that. But if you already received that paper, you can still come and state your case if there's any case to be made, right? As long as you do not dig yourself deeper in the hole, right? Trying to justify things with illogical excuses, right? So that will create more problem than it solves, right? So that's one thing. If any of you think this is harsh, hopefully you still remember this slide that I have shown in the first class, the very first class in this semester. Hopefully you still remember what it means and why I approach my teaching in a certain way, right? So of course, if you forget, you can always go back to the first lecture. It is available in the channel, right? So that's it for that case. Unfortunately, I was hoping no one will ever use this. Unfortunately, some of you did, and unfortunately this is the result. Of course, do not think that this is the end, because the final exam will still carry 50% of the mark of the total mark of the semester, right? So it's still possible to pass even though your total quiz marks will be 0, especially you also have your mark already from your midterm, all right? However, with this, I would like to extend the final warning that no one try to repeat this in the final exam, because I will apply the same principle in the final exam. If one of the question is found to be using this kind of magic, the whole thing I'll just make it 0, right? So there you go, right? So you know it. This is on public record. My first class is available publicly. That final warning is also available publicly. This will also be available publicly. So everything that I do, the reasoning, etc., everyone can go back and check whether it is stated as such from the beginning in terms of the approach that I take. Now, for those who are not caught of using this similar kind of magic or sorcery. I hope, because there are signs of things when I mark the quiz of thinking, wait a minute, something is going on here. But because it's not so obvious that blatantly this kind of magic is being used, perhaps it's not magic, it's just that you have some telepathic mind wave, same wavelengths or something, that coincidentally your friend and you think exactly the same way to solve the question, etc., right? And it appeared like miraculously identical, right? But I cannot accuse of anything, because it's still possible that both of you are match made in heaven and you have the exact same wavelength, etc., right? Regardless, so from my part, I do not intend to become someone trying to catch someone using this kind of things. I never intend to do so. I only act when something is so obvious that there's no other explanation than that is being used, right? So for the rest of you, even though the signs are there, but I cannot accuse of anything, I would like, honestly, I would like sincerely for you to remember what I mentioned in the very first class, right? Remember this slide, and also remember this slide, right? Hopefully that refresh your mind, because we are closing down to the exam date, and many students are concerned about their marks. They want to achieve good grades or at least pass the subject. I understand. And normally in a desperate time comes desperate measures, comes this kind of magic and sorcery and whatever that come into place, right? Just remember those two slides, because in the end this life is temporary, it is short. Would you like to risk, your hereafter for just the short-term gain which is in this world, right? So I hope, because I still remember telling the student, maybe this semester, because we do not have interaction face-to-face in class, I do not have the opportunity to keep on reminding this. I always feel that, of course, as a statistics lecturer, it is my job to try my best to give what I can, what I possibly can, to help you understand the subject, be prepared to answer any type of question, and excel in the subject. I'm trying my best. Maybe my best is not enough, unfortunately, but I'm trying my best to achieve that objective. That is part of my responsibility. However, I always told the student this as well. I will still feel such a failure and regretful if any of you sit in front of me in my class, for whatever reason they excel in the subject but fail in this life and end up in hell. I cannot live with that, especially if I can do something about it. I would rather, if in comparison, of course this is not a dichotomy, it's not exclusive, mutually exclusive, right? But in comparison, I would rather that student might have to repeat the subject to pass in the end, but still end up in heaven, in paradise, right? I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Of course, the best case scenario is you excel in this life and then excel in the hereafter. Of course, we want that, right? But in comparison, just for you to excel in this, in your subject in this life, but at the same time, you are booking your ticket to the hell. Na'uzubillah min zalik. I wouldn't be proud even if you get all 100% in the final, etc., because I still feel that I fail my task as a Muslim if any of my students end up like that, right? So hopefully you understand that, and of course the ball is in your court. Everyone will be responsible for their own action and decision. So make the right decision, make the right action, inshallah. May Allah help us all. And for those who, again, going back to the magic used, it's not too late. Even though, okay, the quiz is 0, never mind, do your best to score for the exam the right way, because it is not worth it, you know, to use something that unlawful in the eyes of God to achieve what you want on this world. Not worth it. There you go. That's all for this video. Wallahu alam. Forgive me for all my shortcomings. I know, you know, I have a lot of shortcomings this semester. Thank you very much. All the best.